Imagine being in your 40s and seeing worrying signs that maybe not everything is right with you cognitively. Imagine being 50, and being told by a physician that you have early onset Alzheimer's. And then imagine less than a year later, hearing that same physician tell you that you had made a miraculous recovery. He is Pastor Michael Jones. I am John Bradshaw, and this is our conversation. Michael Jones, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I really appreciate it. Now, let's quickly run over this big picture. You're in your late 40s, and you start to see worrying signs that things aren't 100% cognitively. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. At the age of 50, what were you told?
I was told that I had Alzheimer's, and that at some point in my life, I'm going to die as a result of that.
Okay. We're going to explore that and talk about the emotions and so forth, but just briefly. 50. Some people would call you a kid.
Yeah.
Some old people, but
Right.
they'd call you a kid.
Very true.
What's it like to hear at 50? Otherwise, look at you. You're healthy and fit and strong and well. What's it like to hear that news at the age of 50?
You know, it was very, it hit me pretty good. I'm thinking about my family. I've got my wife. I've got our two boys. One is in academy and one's in elementary school. And so those are the things that were weighing heavy on my heart.
Sure. Okay. And you're looking into the future and you're saying, obviously, this isn't looking good. It's got to be a little frightening.
You know, you would think so.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things that really ministered to me is the Bible.
Yeah.
I'll just be 100% honest with you. The passage that just came to me was, and now I'm losing it right now.
Which is interesting.
It is.
We'll talk about that. That's okay.
Okay.
Can you find that passage or should we move on?
I think we should move on.
Okay, but a Bible passage came to you.
Yes, it'll
gave you
come
a lot
back.
of comfort, a lot of assurance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And but so 50 years old, you get this diagnosis.
Yes.
This is a death sentence.
Right. 100%.
But later, less than a year later, just give me the shorthand of what you were told by your physician.
It was amazing. He asked me after just a little while. I was waiting in the doctor's office, and he asks me, and here he comes out 20 minutes later, and he says to me, "What have you been doing?" And I didn't know quite how to take it. I couldn't tell if it was positive, if it was negative.
Oh, sure.
And so I just asked him. I said, "So, well, what do you mean?" And he says to me, "You scored on this MOCA test a 26.
What does a 26 mean?
So now a 26, well, the first time that I took the test, I scored a 20. Okay, the highest that you can get is a 30.
And is it 20 average or is it not good?
20 is pretty low. It can go even lower.
Oh, so 20 is low.
Yeah.
And that's an indicator that you had early onset Alzheimer's.
For sure.
Okay.
100%.
Well, what does a 26 mean?
26 is like, well, let me just say this. Here's what he said to me. And I asked him, I said, "So this is pretty good." He says, "No, you don't understand this. In the Alzheimer's world, this doesn't happen." That was literally what he said to me.
Okay. So at 50, it's over. But less than a year later,
9 months even.
you had experienced something that in the Alzheimer's world just doesn't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were diagnosed as having early onset Alzheimer's, and I'm going to say Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's, but we'll just deal with that.
That's all right.
And less than a year later, you are you're doing so well, this never happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd been doing something, we're not going to talk about this yet, but we are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
You've made a stunning recovery from Alzheimer's. Although just a moment ago you said, oh, I can't find that Bible verse. So we're going to talk about just exactly where you are. But it's a remarkable story of an amazing, one might say miraculous recovery. So let's get back to that. First, I want to talk about you.
Okay.
Who is this man sitting in front of me? So you are a pastor, correct?
I am.
Where were you born and raised? Or raised at least?
I was born and raised in California.
Okay.
My dad was in the military, and I was born on Travis Air Force Base.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. And then we went to the Philippines.
All right.
And then came on back to the States, and Dad stayed in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Oh, South Dakota.
And that's where he retired.
All right. So South Dakota was home for a good many years.
Yes.
Okay, and in South Dakota, you're a good church-going boy, or
No.
What did life look like?
No, here's what I'll tell you. I tell people I can't believe I'm a Christian, let alone a pastor.
Oh, tell me why.
I didn't grow up that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. Our parents would send us to school, to Sunday school.
Oh, they would?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And
But a lot of parents will do that. They won't go themselves, but they'll send you. It's good for you. They know it's good for you. They want to teach you some morals and so
Right,
forth.
right.
That was kind of your family's orientation.
yeah, that's exactly how
Okay.
it was. But now, I loved going, and here's the reason why. Are you ready for this?
Yes. I wonder if it's the same reason I love going.
Because they had donuts.
Oh, that's not why I love going. There wasn't a donut ever brought into our church. Donuts.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that church wasn't packed full of young guys.
Right. But this wasn't Adventist. This was just, again, they had a church on the base.
Yeah.
And so that's where I went to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The donut church.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that would get me too. So you went to church, but did that habit stick?
No, nothing stick but those donuts. And then I
Yeah.
moved on, and I grew up, and
What did you move on to?
I moved on to high school.
Yeah.
Then I moved to college, played college football,
And
Division I.
What kind of? We'll get back to that.
Okay.
What kind of kid were you? I mean, were you a bad kid or just a normal kid?
I think I was pretty normal. I was
Normal.
pretty good kid.
Good, pretty good kid, but the mischief wasn't beyond you.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Now hold on a second. You played Division I football.
Yeah.
Where'd you play?
University of Wyoming.
Oh, that's not nothing.
Yeah.
They got a quarterback from the University of Wyoming right now who's burning up the NFL.
He is. He's doing great.
So you went to Wyoming. What position did you play?
When I first started, I was a receiver.
You
and then
look like a receiver.
Coach said to me at one point, he says, you're a good hustler, you work hard, but
I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
you understand, right?
Yeah, I know what's
And he
coming.
says to me, you're not good enough to be a wide receiver at this level.
Oh,
And so again, that was hurt pride.
you don't want to hear that.
No, you don't. And so eventually, though, here's what he says: I think you would be good at a tight end.
Oh, tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so, crazy enough, I ended up getting a little bit bigger and working out. And my junior and senior year, I weighed 240 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah. Projected to be a fifth round draft pick.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just ask a couple of those little fanboy questions.
Sure.
Did you play against anybody whose name we might recognize?
Yeah. What was the guy? Man, I may not remember their names,
all right.
though.
All right. We'll forgive you that, given what you've been through. But you played against some notable players.
Oh, for sure.
And now you were projected to go in the fifth round,
Yeah.
but you didn't.
Well, yeah, because when you're a tight end and you're only 6'2",
Right.
they look at you as a tweener.
Yeah, they want you to be 6'4", 6'5".
Well, even if
Bigger-
you can,
bigger
even
is
if you're
better.
they do want you to be bigger. But
Yeah.
even if you are 6'2", they're looking at, does he have amazing speed, or does he have amazing strength?
Right.
Because if you have amazing speed or amazing strength, they're still going to look at you.
Right.
So I'll give you an example of what amazing strength is.
Yeah.
We had a guy on our team, he bench pressed 225 pounds. No, 225 pounds.
Sure.
And he did it 40 times.
Okay, he was a strong lad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I did it, I stepped up to the mic and I did it 18 times. That's not...
Right. Hey, that's pretty good.
It is.
But it's not 40.
No.
I think we forget that these guys who make it to the elite level, if we're going to call it that, to professionals, they're very special.
It's very true.
They're very strong, very big, very fast.
Yeah.
They're not like me. They're abnormal.
Yeah, it's very true.
I'm maybe normal. So, but you didn't go. So you were around, and you just didn't go in the draft, or did something else happen?
So I ended up going to play in a Canadian league.
Okay.
Yeah, and did well for a little bit on the tryouts.
Yeah.
And after a while, I was it didn't work there either.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and I want to double back around and say this because I'm fascinated. I mean, there's this certain glamour about professional sports.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, man. Very few people get in there and survive spiritually. It's a one-way street. It's not good usually for a person's relationship with God. It can be a very difficult environment. So I'm not going to extend a whole lot of sympathy towards you for missing out. But I am going to ask you this question. So in many professional contact sports, rugby, football in this country, we're dealing now with the after effects of head knocks and concussions.
Right.
Could your diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's, could it have been related to the knocks you took when you were playing football?
You know, it's interesting you're bringing this out because with my early onset Alzheimer's, we've learned that there are 6 types of Alzheimer's, and one of them has to deal with what you just brought up. But this is the thing with me, I've never been diagnosed with a concussion.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think that's...
So probably not.
Yeah.
But if you're one of these guys who got knocked around and got concussed a lot, you'd maybe looking at that as a potential cause. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we got a couple of things here. We got a guy playing professional football in Canada, but we have the same fellow who became a pastor.
Yeah.
You got to connect the dots here. Connect some dots for me.
Absolutely.
And just to reiterate, we are here talking about your amazing journey to and out of Alzheimer's. I say out of guardedly, but we'll dig deeper into that. So,
absolutely.
So you had a diagnosis of Alzheimer's that has been an amazing recovery. So how did you get to ministry? What happened?
Well, after everything was done with football, I finished up one more year and became a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, so I taught for 6 years.
Yeah.
And
in the Dakotas?
Started out in Wyoming.
Okay, sure.
Cheyenne, because that's where I was there.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, 2 years back in my hometown.
Yeah.
And then 2 more years in Colorado.
All right.
Yeah.
But being a teacher, I mean, you got to being a pastor. So tell me.
So
that story.
there's a little bit more. So my sister became an Adventist before I did. And she kept on asking me to do Bible studies. And I was like, oh no, Ginger, get away. And so she kept on asking me. And so for 3 years, I kept on saying no. And so here's the beauty of my sister. She changed her canvas and she says this to me. Hey, Michael, how about you come and see the girls? Now I've got 2 nieces that are just beautiful. One is, at the time, one was 9 months old and the other one was 3 years old.
Beautiful.
So there I go.
That got you.
Yes,
Yeah.
got me completely. And so I went in the house, played with my sweet nieces, and but you know how it is. At 3 years old, the batteries don't last very long. Or 9 months old, the batteries don't last very long.
Yeah, that's right.
And so she goes and puts them to bed. And then she comes back with this big grin looking at me and she says, hey, Michael, how about we do a Bible study now? And I said, oh my goodness, she got me.
Yeah. So you had the Bible study. So what happened after the Bible study?
Well, I'll just tell you, it literally changed my life. And we didn't even get completely into the Bible study. So my brother-in-law then steps in and he says this. He says, where are you at with God and religion? And I said, well, I'm not really interested. People hate, people kill, and people are prejudiced, and they do it all in the name of God. I want nothing to do with it. And let me tell you, what my brother-in-law told me next literally changed my whole life.
What did he tell you?
Here's what he said to me. He says, Michael, the most important thing is you and your relationship with Jesus. And I was like, wow. I mean, I had never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
See, my whole life, I was looking at people.
Right.
And here's what he said to me. You need to look at the person of Jesus
That's
Christ.
right. That's right.
And
That's right.
brother, let me tell you, I go telling this to everybody
Yeah.
because that's where my whole life changed, literally in that one moment.
Yeah. It's just like saying, well, I don't want to live in France or Germany or whatever because there are so many people there that are hypocrites.
Right.
Well, I mean, sure, but that's everywhere.
Exactly.
People are people. So bring this down to somehow you entered ministry. How did that happen?
I continued. I was still teaching,
Yeah.
and I became Adventist. And I there's this family that took me underneath their wings, and at one point I came to the family on a Wednesday. We had something going on in their home, and man, I just was in tears. And I said to I can't even remember her name now, but this sweet dear sister, and I said to her, like, I've got to learn. I've got to go somewhere where I can teach people about Jesus.
There you go. Amen.
And that was where it started, literally.
Yeah. How did you enjoy pastoral ministry?
Oh, loved it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 And what states of the country did you pastor in?
We were in Minnesota for quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Also in fact, most our full time was in Minnesota, and then here in Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then before that, we did Bible work.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just about the greatest work you can
Yeah,
do.
it is wonderful.
Okay, we're going to go fast forward.
Okay.
So, secular upbringing with a little bit of church back there, a sister who studied the Bible with you, other people who influenced you. You became a pastor. You moved to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Things started to change. That is for you cognitively.
Yeah.
What did you notice that caused you to wonder if things were going on? Were there any early warning signs for you?
There was. I can remember this. Wow, it's like etched in my mind. I remember one day I was getting ready for church, and my wife's in bed, and I'm getting up, and I'm getting dressed, getting clothes, everything, and I grabbed my tie, and I couldn't remember how to put my tie on. This is probably about maybe 2.5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I just was like, so literally for 10 minutes, I'm like, what's going on? And I couldn't put my tie on. And so after 10 minutes, I literally said, God, I need your help right now. And I kid you not, it came right back to me.
Well, just like that.
Just like that.
Okay.
I ran out of the house and said to myself, wow, what just happened?
And did you think about that a lot afterwards? Did you play that back, or did you just move on?
I just moved on.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah.
4 months later, I told my wife about the whole story. She got me into the hospital. She got me into labs and all kinds of things.
Right away?
Right away, brother. As soon as I told her about it.
Yeah, okay.
And I tell you, man, like, our wives, they're a rebuke to us.
Let me hear you say amen out there.
Yes.
Yeah. And such a blessing because, we just go on in our way and the Lord put those special people in our lives to keep us pointing in the right direction.
That's right.
So what did the tests, those earlier tests reveal?
The earlier test, they were thinking maybe, because I did a sleep study.
Okay.
So they thought maybe Parkinson's.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we didn't know what to think about that.
Yeah.
And then, so that was what they were thinking in the beginning.
No one said at any time, it's nothing, you're fine.
Yeah, I've had several people say that.
Oh, yeah?
I've had several people even in the church who said, oh, no, you don't have Alzheimer's.
Oh, really?
Just because it's me. It's Pastor Michael.
Couldn't possibly be you.
Right. There's no way you have that.
Because it always happens to somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah. So you continued down this line, I guess, of pursuing medical treatment or a diagnosis.
Yes. And there were some things that had happened even when I was in the pulpit.
Yeah.
I would start, like, my papers, right? You set them up on the pulpit. And sometimes I was just messing with them and I couldn't get a grip on everything. And it was an awkward thing. You know how a pause, right? A pause is a good thing as a pastor.
Yeah, and a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be a bad thing when it's too long.
That's right.
And so some of those things came into place as well.
Is that right? So in the pulpit, you started to get disoriented and couldn't figure out where your notes were meant to be and so forth.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you about that day the doctor said you have early onset Alzheimer's. I'm glad you're here. He is Michael Jones. I'm John Bradshaw. More from our conversation in just a moment, brought to you by It Is Written. You know that at It Is Written, we are serious about studying the Word of God, and we encourage you to be serious as well. Well, here's what you do if you want to dig deeper into God's Word. Go to itiswritten.study for the It Is Written Bible Study Guides online. 25 in-depth Bible studies that will take you through the major teachings of the Bible. You'll be blessed, and it's something you'll want to tell others about as well. Itiswritten.study. Go further. Itiswritten.study. Welcome back to Conversations, brought to you by It Is Written. My guest is Pastor Michael Jones, who at the tender age of 50 was given news he did not expect to receive, and that is that he had early onset Alzheimer's. Getting a diagnosis like that, we discussed it a little bit earlier, but by the time you got it, did you think, by the time you got the diagnosis, were you aware that you had an actual, what I'm going to call a problem?
Yeah, I felt something. Yeah, I could tell that there was something going on.
Hey, describe that to me. What were you experiencing?
It happened in the pulpit again.
Okay.
I was in the pulpit preaching. Things were going well. Now, by this time, I was telling you about the papers earlier, right?
Yeah.
Now, by this time, I'm using my wife's iPad.
Okay.
Because that was too much.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the iPad, and there's this word that I'm looking at, and I just couldn't make sense of it.
Oh,
and it was probably for it was a while. It was pause plus.
Yeah. So to you, it felt like an eternity.
Oh yeah.
To the people in the congregation, they're thinking, this is not normal.
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay. Was there a moment, maybe that was it, was there a moment that you said, okay, I really have a problem? I mean, the tie, you could explain that away if you wanted to. That was weird. What was that?
Yep.
But was there a moment that you go, okay, I just have to admit, this is a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah?
The one that I just told you, that was it.
There, that was it. You were
That
convinced.
was it.
Yeah.
In fact, that one literally changed everything. The next morning I woke up and I was deep in prayer with God, talking about God, there's something going on. I don't know what it is. I was impressed to get on the internet. And then I said, well, what are the indications of Alzheimer's?
Right.
What are the top 10? And man, I had 8 of them.
Oh, ouch.
And I just felt like, okay, so this is this. And then I called my cousin because I knew that my auntie had Alzheimer's. And so we started talking then, and I was like, okay, there's something more to this.
That's interesting. So it's in your family. That's interesting. Hey, let me ask you about your family. Mm-hmm. So you're the one who's looking down the barrel at Alzheimer's and affecting the rest of your life, but you're not alone in this. You have a wife.
Yeah, I got a wife, got 2 boys.
Yeah. So what's your wife thinking? My husband may have dementia. That's pretty scary when you're way too young. I mean, if you were mid to late 70s or 80s or something, it's far more common then.
Right.
What's she experiencing?
She's amazing. Let me first set that right away. She's been my rock and so much of it. But again, I think when I told her, after that 4 months at what had happened, I think she was like, okay, we've got to get him going. Yeah. And so she brother, she was just on it. And
nice. Your boys, were they aware there was anything wrong with Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I got a little bit different, I for a season, I was pretty rough and gruff with the boys, and I didn't even recognize it.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not used to that coming from Dad, so they're realizing there's something changing around here.
Yeah.
At some stage, you had to have realized, I'm probably not going to be able to carry on as a pastor.
Right. it was just, it was an interesting ride.
Was there any one thing that hit you hardest? I'm not able to do this now. Was there one thing, or were there two things above others that really impacted you?
You know, just the point, I think the point that I probably wasn't going to be going into pastoral ministry anymore.
Yeah.
That was just kind of a...
Now your calling has been pulled away from you.
Yeah.
Had to be tough.
Right.
Okay, so you're diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. That's that. And cognitively, you're doing this.
Yes.
You're declining. I don't know how slow, but we're on a downward gradient.
Oh,
now.
No doubt.
Going down the hill. You can see it. You can say, wow, I'm worse today than I was 2 months ago. You're experiencing that.
Right.
Were you experiencing that?
Oh, yeah.
That was happening. You're aware of your own decline. Your wife is witnessing it. Your kids are witnessing it. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. We said at the beginning that you scored a 20. It's bad. But then you came back and you scored a 26. 30 is really, really good. 26 is good.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So it appeared you have reversed the decline and you've started to improve. Now, I want to say this first. Your experience won't be the same as everybody else's.
That's right.
The fact that you've experienced improvement isn't a guarantee for anyone. I want to be very, very clear about that. But it does offer hope for people who are in your situation.
That's right.
Absolute hope. Okay. What did you do?
I'll tell you, this was at the time when the NAD had the pastors' meetings.
Yeah.
And so I was there, and I started talking to some people, and they were telling us about it can be reversed. And we had never heard of that, my wife and I.
Never heard that?
No.
Okay.
And so we're there at the meetings with the pastors, and several pastors were telling us about this. So we leave, the pastoral meeting and everything, and everybody goes their separate ways. And so we got in touch with some friends who told us about that we could go to an Alzheimer's boot camp. And so that was the start of the reversal that we're talking here about.
Wow. Okay. So what did they have you do?
It was a 5-day Alzheimer's boot camp.
Yeah. Okay.
And they just talked about the importance of food.
Yes.
They talked about exercise. They talked about sleep.
Right.
And just good things that we probably should be doing.
Probably things everybody should be doing anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Now, you didn't turn this around in 5 days. I don't want anybody to
No.
think. But that was like the crash course, want to teach you what you can do to help yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Okay. And this isn't quackery.
No.
Or is it? No.
No.
This isn't run by the crazies.
No, these
Some
are
people in a commune on a mountaintop who eat funny and don't shower. This is medical. We're talking medical.
Oh yeah, these are medical doctors.
Okay.
Medical doctors.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you found the program you found and how you were shepherded through that and what you did. Tell me about that.
So one of the things we found out was this guy's name, Dale Bredesen.
Okay.
And so we started reading his book, and this is the book.
That's the book right there.
Right here, yeah. The End of Alzheimer's.
There it is.
I mean, how exciting is to hear something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so my wife and I, we got excited, brother.
You didn't worry, this could be a setup or false hope?
No.
No, okay. So you dived into this believing that there was light at the end of the tunnel.
Because of the people who we talked to.
Okay.
We believe them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you'd spoken to people who'd experienced reversal?
No.
Oh, you hadn't?
No. I've just heard from others that it was possible.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard of anybody.
Yeah. But somebody who's told as a young man, you have early onset Alzheimer's, you if you got any brains, you're going to throw yourself at something that offers you hope.
Absolutely.
And particularly as this isn't cranky. You didn't have to go to another country and attend a clinic with strange treatments.
None of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what Dr. Bredesen advocates. And again, I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
I do not want to even intimate that we're saying this will work for everybody.
That's right.
Different bodies react differently to different treatments. the disease one person has, though it's the same disease as another person, it may not work precisely the same in
Right.
each context. So we want to be clear. But it has helped you immensely, and therefore, hopefully, it may help others.
Yeah.
So
So some of the things that we learned is, first I just want to maybe set it like steps to Christ, right?
Okay.
13 principles
Sure.
within that book that she
beautiful
writes,
book.
that beautiful book.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at steps to Alzheimer's.
Okay, sure.
And so here's what I discover. No sugar,
Right.
okay?
I've heard that.
Yep. Number two,
Yeah.
exercise.
Hey, pause. By no sugar, you mean what?
Well,
Because I know people who eat no sugar, and they drink soda every other day, but they would never eat. They're cutting back on their sugar. No sugar means no sugar.
No sugar.
Or just really cutting back. What does it mean?
it means no sugar, but
Okay.
again, everybody's who they are.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
And we're talking no added sugar. You can eat an apple.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, fruits and vegetables is really the ideal thing, and that's what I did for 9 months.
Okay. Exercise.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means getting in the gym, working out, walking, running.
Okay.
Yeah,
Normal stuff,
normal stuff.
but exercise.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like many of us who either don't exercise or would agree that exercise is a great idea, but we hardly do it. You're pursuing exercise.
Yeah.
I don't know. Overstate that, but you mean active exercise program.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So before I was doing the exercise, I weighed 200 and maybe 20 pounds,
Okay.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
After those 9 months that I just spoke about,
Yeah.
I got down to 180 pounds.
Ooh, okay, that's 40 pounds.
It's a lot of weight.
That's good, yeah.
And I didn't like the way that I looked. I kid you not, brother. I'm like, okay, we've got to make a change now.
Yeah. And you did.
I did.
Well, congratulations. It's a great change.
Yeah. And so, again, I was motivated by my dad who has Alzheimer's.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Your dad has Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
And an aunt.
And an aunt.
Is the aunt his sister?
Yep, they're siblings.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, I'm just seeing this in the family here.
It is. So,
Yeah.
and again, I have another uncle who passed away from it
Okay.
as well.
Which is interesting, man, because you are told you have Alzheimer's, and you can look at people in your family and say, that's where I'm headed.
Yeah,
That's sobering.
it was.
Yeah.
It was
And-
very sobering.
And provides you with the motivation to do something about it.
That's right.
Okay. Sugar, exercise, what else?
And then sleep.
Sleep?
For the last 18 years, I've been waking up at 4 o'clock.
By choice?
You know, it was.
It was?
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Not getting enough sleep, though.
Not getting enough sleep.
Were you aware during those 18 hours that you're cutting things too close? Were you aware of that, or did it just feel normal to you?
No, it was just normal.
No.
Yeah.
So how many hours of sleep a night would you be getting? 5, 6?
Yeah, something.
Along those lines?
Yeah.
And what do the experts tell you should get?
7 to 8.
Okay.
7 to 8.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started getting your 7, 8 hours sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I started it. It took a little while. I probably took 3 to 5 months to really get in a groove and be serious about it.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with the food
Okay.
and all of that.
Okay, and that's good to know.
It takes a while.
So you were human enough that it took there was a gradual process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, like 9 months, like that whole thing. And
Okay, so it's good to know that that's okay.
Right.
One need not master it overnight.
yeah, and same
Okay.
thing with the sugar. I mean, I still don't think I have sugar mastered. Right
okay.
now. I'm just being honest.
Because it's everywhere.
yes, it is.
It's everywhere. You buy a box of cereal, many of them you might as well be buying a box of candy.
I'm telling you, that's right.
Crazy.
It is.
So, okay. So that's just, listen, you were told you had early onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And then you were told by the doctor. In fact, are you still seeing that doctor?
He's the one who said, you don't need to come see me anymore.
The doctor said that to you.
That's exactly what he said.
Don't come back.
He says, there's no need for you to come back because what you're doing works. And he said, stick with it.
Wow. Okay, so what you're doing is exercising, which is pretty normal.
Yes.
You cut sugar as far as possible from your diet. You got more sleep. I mean, are there more legs on the stool?
There's one more that I think that we don't usually talk about, and that is communion.
Oh, is that so? Dr. Bredesen talks about that?
No, I talk about that.
Oh, okay.
I just bring that out.
You think that's an important one?
I think it's huge.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why.
Why?
When I started going to the gym, I had a group of people that was my community.
Yep.
And so I got to know probably, I bet 10, 15 guys.
Yeah.
And we talk, we pray together.
Oh, yeah.
It's been amazing. There's been so many, it's been wonderful.
Okay.
So that community part, I believe, is huge, because most of us pastors, we're isolated.
That's true, you know.
It's very true, brother.
You're the center of a congregation, and yet you can be absolutely isolated.
Yes. And that's what I discovered in my ministry.
Yeah. And you know what? I tell you what, a lot of church members will be surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
But it's true.
I mean, we do. I mean, we love our church members.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it absolutely.
And some of them love us.
Yes.
Yeah. But it doesn't change the fact that it's very isolating.
Yeah, it is.
Just for a number of reasons that for us are pretty easy to understand.
And again, we'll think about it. We connect with once. I mean, we don't do it always once a week. I mean, maybe two, three. I mean, but
maybe, but mostly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that that community component is huge.
Vital, huh?
Yeah. So those are the three that I learned from Bredesen, and I just threw in this community part.
Yeah, because for you that's been really significant.
Yeah, I've just seen the blessing of connecting.
Yeah. Okay. So going back, you were experiencing the decline of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I were to ask someone in your congregation, what was Pastor Michael like? Would they say, oh, we hardly noticed? Or they would say, oh yeah, it was noticeable.
I would think they'd say that it was noticeable.
Okay, so
I would, for sure.
So
and I don't blame them.
Right. No, but it was noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if a guy walks in with a broken leg and he's got it in a cast, that's noticeable.
Yes, sir.
For them, your challenge was discernible.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so again, we were at a point where, what should we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what were your options as someone who had Alzheimer's? What did the medical people say? Well, here's what your options are. What do they hold out to you as a possible way forward?
Brother, this is what they said to me, the doctor. Okay? So when we first were waiting for him, he comes out and he says, with this loud voice, boisterous, right? And he says, you have Alzheimer's. That's what he says.
Oh.
And so then my wife, sitting right next to me, she says to him, will you tell him what that means? And he didn't want to say anything.
Really?
And she says it again, tell him what that means.
What did he say?
And this is what he says. That means that your brain is going to atrophy, and at some point, you're going to die because of Alzheimer's.
At some point, did he dare give you a time frame?
No.
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 Just at some point.
Yep, at some point, you're going to die because of this.
Death sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. In a moment, I want to ask you about the journey back and the incredible progress you made. And we're going to talk to you about the fact that things aren't perfect.
Right.
But they're a whole lot better than they've been.
Amen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. This is Conversations brought to you by It Is Written. I'm speaking with Pastor Michael Jones, and we'll be back with more of this remarkable story in just a moment.
It's one of the most challenging books in the Bible. Why do hard challenges come? Why does God allow difficulty and distress? And what's going on behind the scenes in a world filled with suffering and sorrow? Our ongoing series, Great Characters of the Bible, continues with a look at the life of Job, a man described by God as perfect and upright, yet afflicted by a devastating illness. Some of the most difficult questions people have deal with the God who permits suffering. Yet the Bible presents logical, accessible answers that make sense and grow your faith in the God of heaven. Struggling to find answers, his integrity attacked by his friends and questioned by his wife, Job's journey into the depths of anguish provides answers for everyone. and presents a clear picture of the character of God. Don't miss Great Characters of the Bible, Job. Brought to you by It Is Written TV.
Welcome back to Conversations, brought to you by It Is Written. My guest is Pastor Michael Jones. Told at 50 you have Alzheimer's and you're going to die from it. But then you got on a program where you adopted some pretty straightforward, simple lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
What did you start to experience in terms of improvement, and when?
Well, that's a good question. It probably took 4, 5, 7 months, somewhere in there.
Before you started to see improvement?
Yeah.
Okay, hit the pause button. Let me ask you about that. So you've stopped eating cotton candy, and you're not staying up till 2:30 in the morning anymore, and you're out jogging and pushing weights in a gym with your 10 or 15 new friends.
Yeah.
And you'd been doing that for 4 months and there'd been no change. Was there a time that you attempted to say, well, this ain't helping? Why should I do this? No?
No.
Why not?
Probably because of what I've known from exercising when I was in football.
Okay, so you knew it was good.
Yeah.
You're just going to do it anyway.
You just have to keep pushing through.
Okay. And you're experiencing losing weight.
Right.
So, okay. So you never thought about quitting?
No.
Okay. But after several months, a light goes on. Tell me what one of those lights were, one of those changes. You discovered what?
Well, how do I say this? The way that I knew that things were good was through my family. Because they could recognize it before that I can.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, tell me about that.
So I remember when Tristan, our youngest son, said to me, I can tell that you're getting better. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he says, just the way that you're talking.
Because you said a few moments ago that as you were declining, you started to get become a little more impatient with the kids.
Yeah.
And they noticed that there'd been a turnaround.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lovely thing to hear from you.
It was very much. And I kept on hearing that more and more.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing certain things. Like for example, like in order for me to, especially in the early parts, in order for me to remember something, I literally had to stop where I was, and I had to go back, and then I could go again.
Okay. You mean go back in your mind or go back physically, go back to the other room?
I had to go back physically to know what I was doing.
Yeah. Hey, there's so many of us right now who are going, that happens to us all the time.
Yeah.
What did I walk into this room for? You walk out to the other room and you go, oh, now I remember. And it's not really very funny. So you were having to do that before.
Man, I was doing that every day, all the time.
Oh, is that right?
All the time.
That could be frustrating.
Yeah, it was.
But one day you walked from the living room to the kitchen and you thought, I need to grab my teacup. And you didn't forget.
Didn't forget.
And did you say, look at me?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Just like that,
Really?
Told my wife, and
Really?
she saw it, and it was pretty amazing.
I can imagine that had to be exhilarating.
Oh, it was. But it takes time.
Yeah, but the sharpness started coming back.
Yeah.
Give me another example, something that came back.
Another one, when it came back, was my sleeping.
Okay.
The sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would take a while to sleep, and then I was just in sync, getting good 8-9 hours of sleep, and it was just, and then I could just feel it. I mean, things were just getting better.
So you could feel it.
Yeah.
Had to feel good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, talk with me about your relationship with God. We both know that God could have prevented it.
Right.
We both know that God in His infinite wisdom chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in your late 40s and you realize you're declining, and you're told at 50, in a boisterous fashion, you have Alzheimer's. Did you ever look towards heaven and go, you have let me down? Did you ever have that conversation with God?
Not once.
No. Why do you think you didn't, given that we both know, you've had church members who have,
Yeah.
we both know that people frequently have that conversation. Why did you not?
I think it comes back to what my brother-in-law told me.
Remind us what he told you.
He said to me when I had that Bible study with
Yes.
him, he asked me, where are you with God and everything?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not interested. And he told me, Michael, the most important thing is you and your relationship with Jesus.
Look to Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
so-
you held on to that.
100%.
You didn't get bitter with Jesus?
Not even.
No?
No.
Well, that's fantastic.
No. In fact, I talked with him more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I pray, but then there's this relationship where, like, when Jesus was in walking with him in the morning, and so, like, I walk with him all the time.
Right.
I mean, he's been so good to me.
Yes, he's been good to you.
He's been very good.
So listen, you've had Alzheimer's, and you say, he's been good to me. Wouldn't he have been better if he didn't permit the Alzheimer's? Or you don't see it that way? Take your time, it's okay. You're able to say, he has been so good to me in spite of what you've been through and your family's been through.
He's literally just closer. We had that quarterly about the crucible,
Sure.
and I was right in the midst of it.
That's right, you would have been.
And he just walked with me.
So let me ask you this. Has your relationship with God been enhanced by this experience?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a passage, 1 Peter 5:10.
that's it. Yeah, I've got a Bible here, 1 Peter 5:10.
Okay, where is that?
Go
1
ahead,
Peter.
read that.
One of the things that hasn't come back is a lot of my vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment.
Okay, let me find this here. Verse 10, here it is. Oh, but the God of all grace, who has called us to his eternal glory in Christ Jesus. Now, after you have suffered a while, he will make you perfect, strengthen, and establish you. So it wasn't before, it's after you suffer.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
It is, and so I've held on to that.
Yeah. Did
At
you
some-
did you feel along the way like you were suffering? Is that a word you would use?
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt that way, huh?
It did, but I also realized that there are people who suffer way much more than I do.
Of course, sure. Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah, but still, you can only go through your own experience.
That's right.
And being told that your brain is going to atrophy to the place you're going to die, that's pretty heavy duty.
It is, and
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, but the light started to come back on.
Yeah.
And you started to regain some of what the locusts had eaten.
Whew,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, and God has been faithful.
He has.
But I want to ask you, you're not back at 100%.
Yeah.
So what's still missing, and what's life like with that deficit you have, whatever it looks like? What do you still struggle with today?
I'm still pushing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm not stopping. I'm just keeping pushing.
Yeah. Where are you finding, though, you're not back to 100%? Where is that? Where are the gaps in your experience today?
Probably a little bit in the sugar area. Is that what you're talking about? I'm not quite sure.
No. So early on, we had a
Yes.
thing like, oh, sorry, I can't remember that.
Yeah.
And you know that you're not back to 100% function.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're pressing up towards that. So where are the gaps?
Oh, I see. Okay. So some of them are in my speech.
Yes, your speech sounds good to me. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. Then maybe I'm just self-conscious or something.
Okay, but you notice it.
Yeah.
All right, so if
Yeah.
you notice it's there, okay.
And then another thing is that when we were in Minnesota, I had what they call a co-infection with Lyme's disease.
Oh, okay.
And so that that's what's probably I'm dealing with my eyes.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, so I rarely read.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so
what do you experience when you try to read?
It's just very, I don't know, my eyes just strain.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that an Alzheimer's thing or more the Lyme disease thing?
It's both. In fact, Dr. Bredesen
Yes.
talks about how that happens.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
what's amazing, they were able to find out on the labs here in Georgia that back in Minnesota, I had Lyme disease. It's a co-infection.
Yeah. And when they found that out, that was a significant finding for them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge.
Okay.
And so I'm taking supplements right now to
All right.
deal with that.
Okay. Are you forgetful?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still there.
Now, many of us are forgetful because we're not getting any younger, and
Right.
because forgetful is kind of part of life for some people. But you notice, do you ever do that? And notice that that's a hangover from before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm. There's some of that.
Does it annoy you?
No.
Does it bug you? You're just used to it.
No.
Okay.
I'm just keeping pressing on, knowing that God's going to keep growing me.
Yeah. And your wife, she's seen this remarkable comeback that
Yeah.
you've made, and it must overjoy her and your boys.
Yeah, amazingly.
Now, if I were to ask them, so what do you notice about Dad, your boys, or your
Right.
husband, if I spoke to your wife, that's not the same as, say, 5 years ago, what would they notice? What would they say, yeah, there's this little area where he's still got some recovery to make? What would they notice?
Dad isn't probably as fun as he used to be. I'll be honest. I don't recognize it, but I would think.
Now, what do you mean by that? Is that like, I don't want to jump off this cliff into the water, that kind of fun, or just the spontaneous stuff?
Just the spontaneous, playing around, wrestling.
Okay, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's significant, but
It's changing. It's
a small price to pay.
Yeah.
And it's changing.
It is. That's what's exciting.
That's got to be a fun journey for you to see it coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, brother.
Okay, let me ask you a delicate question.
Okay.
Do you ever fear that this recovery is going to stop, or worse, do you ever fear that one day they're going to tell you you're declining again? Do you fear that?
I've never even thought about that.
You haven't?
No way.
That's a fantastic thing.
No.
Tell me why you haven't thought about that.
Because that's just not the trajectory where I'm going.
Amen.
I'm that way.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
Oh, fantastic. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so somebody is listening to you right now, watching you right now,
Yeah.
and they're thinking, my wife was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's last week or last month, or my brother-in-law has early onset Alzheimer's. What's your advice to a person in that situation?
I share with them, get a diagnosis,
Yes?
and then I tell them, you've got to get in touch with this book right here.
The End of Alzheimer's.
The End of Alzheimer's with
Dr.
Bredesen.
Bredesen.
Hit the New York bestseller list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I share with them and encourage them to, if I know them well, I share with them about those 4 that we just talked about.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Have you known people who have got on the program because they've learned about you and heard about your recovery?
Yeah, I put it on posts. I put it on Facebook, and I had several people contact me, and a number of people who have been asking me and with questions, and it's been pretty humbling.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Do you see a return to pastoral ministry one day? Do you hope for that, or has that ship sailed? How do you feel?
You know, I probably think that ship has sailed.
Mm-hmm.
I think, though, that I'm going to continue in ministry.
Okay.
I see myself being kind of a Paul tent maker kind of a thing.
All right, sure.
Yeah, we as a family, we're looking at starting a family business.
Right, good.
And so in somewhere in there, I'm thinking that ministry is going to, what word would I say? It's going to arise.
Going to arrive or arise in there, and there'll be ministry opportunities.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing that God has made the human body in such a way that when sin strikes, there are frequently, I use that word carefully, can't say always because that just isn't true. There are frequently methodologies, methods, treatments, interventions that can be employed, even natural, to bring restoration where the results of sin have done their damage. Isn't that a phenomenal thing?
It really is.
Yeah. What have you learned about God through this journey, or what has come into clearer focus?
His patience, His love, His kindness,
Unfailing.
unfailing.
Yeah.
And even if we're in the worst, He still loves us. He hasn't left us.
Yeah.
And that is such a,
Hey, let me ask you this.
yeah.
What would this journey have looked like for you? This is unknowable, but
Sure.
let's ask the question. What do you think this journey would have looked like for you if you had no God to lean on? You understand my question, right?
Yeah.
If you were not a man of faith, if you were not a Christian believer, how do you think you'd have coped with this journey?
Oof. I don't think I could.
Yeah.
There's just no way. That's speaking to me. That's me speaking.
Sure.
Amazing
Hey, what's
thing.
tomorrow going to look like?
Hey, here's what I say.
Yeah.
Yesterday's history.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's a mystery, but today's the day we got.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. That's right.
So like tomorrow, I'm looking forward to it.
You're looking forward to it.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
brother.
when you got this diagnosis, were you looking forward to tomorrow when you knew that you were declining? What did tomorrow feel like then? Were you hopeful about tomorrow when you're going deeper into deficit? How did that look? How did that feel?
I just loved every day.
Imagine it had to be a little tough though, right? I
There
mean,
were days.
You go to bed tonight and someone's taken 10 different crayons out of the crayon box. Weren't you worried that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, there ain't going to be a blue, there might not be a magenta, the yellow might be gone? Were you concerned about what tomorrow would look like?
It wasn't fear. I may be concerned, but it wasn't a fearful concern.
It wasn't fear.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you put that down to?
My relationship with Him.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been a remarkable conversation.
Yeah.
I've really loved talking with you. It's just so exciting seeing what God has done in your life.
Thank
how
you.
He's blessed you, to hear you say that God is faithful even when things are upside down. Hey, thank you for spending your time. I pray God will bless you and that each new tomorrow will be filled with His presence.
Amen.
Pastor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a blessing. Thank you for joining with us. I trust you've been, if you're half as blessed as I've been, then I'm really thankful. He is Pastor Michael Jones. I am John Bradshaw. And this has been our conversation brought to you by It Is Written.